Hey module makers, I'm David, the creative director of Modulus. Welcome to Modulus Academy, where I give you my top tips for peak optimization. Today we're gonna talk a little bit about the efficiency view. It's gonna be a bit of a shorter video, but I think it's a topic that can have quite some interesting insights. So the efficiency view, it's a thing that you unlock during your playthrough in a tech tree, and it can be a very powerful tool to debug any issues in your factory. So when it's unlocked, you can get kind of access to this button, or pressing H, that switches to a view that colors all your operators into a color that matches their current efficiency. So you can see here, like there's some red, yellow, green. Ideally, you want as many as green as possible, because that means if an operator is green, it's running at its max efficiency. So as you can see here, I've set up a little production line that's making the first modules you have to make in the game. So as we kind of look at this through the efficiency view, we see there's some issues here, because ideally we want all the operators to be green. So now it's time to kind of debug what is going wrong here. And by looking at the efficiency view, you could see that, for example, my furnaces are not all green. So what does that mean? If I check what's coming into my furnaces, it's all 4 miners. So that should actually be okay. So these are green, these are yellow, but they are all hooked up correctly. So the issue is not with the furnaces. So what actually is happening here is that there's 4 furnaces can perfectly fill a conveyor belt with cubes of 60 per minute. So this actually means that these furnaces can't output a cube whenever they want to output a cube. So they're being blocked by something. So the issue has to be further down the line. This is a fairly simple setup, but some modules require way more complex production line. So here it's kind of easy for a trained eye to spot the problem, but I'm going to show you some advice, or give you some advice of how you can debug your production line. And we can do that using scrappers actually. So if this is a very complicated setup and you want to figure out what's going wrong where, I suggest using a scrapper. So for example, if you want to debug this whole first line here up until after the assemblers, we just put a scrapper down here and we let the system run. So it's basically deblocking or relieving pressure from the production line, so there's no hiccups here. So if we put the scrapper down and we go back to the efficiency view, we can see if anything changes. So you can already see that my assemblers are now very happy about this. So they're outputting as they want to output. That means they get the sufficient resources in, and they are not blocked by outputting anything. So they are getting 30 per minute in, and they can output 15 per minute. So they are apparently okay. So you can see now slowly down the line, the miners are also getting green. My furnaces are getting green. Yeah, see now everything is green. So that means with all the way up until this setup, there's no actual issue. So I can actually remove that and continue further down the line. So the problem has to be somewhere around here, right? So something is blocking my previous part here from outputting what it wants to output. So if we then take a closer look at what's happening here, you can see that there's both of the assemblers are outputting 15 per minute, and both of these cutters can take in 15 per minute. So that leads me to believe that there's nothing wrong with these cutters either. So you go further down the line and there's only one left, and that's this one. So basically what's happening, this one's fine, it outputs 30 per minute. This one isn't, because it outputs 30 per minute, but it's actually blocked by this one. So although this cutter shows up green in the efficiency view, you can tell that this one is blocked by this one. So this one is actually doing fine because it's getting all the resources at once and it's outputting all the resources at once. But this one is not, because it's outputting 30 per minute and this can only take in 15 per minute. So the issue is actually with this cutter, and it basically just means that I have more than I'm handling right now. So the solution obviously here is to put down a splitter and just double this operation. So we can just copy the configuration, hop, there you go. And right now, these 30 per minute output is actually handled by 2 cutters who have a 15 per minute input. So I'm effectively, by one simple intervention, I'm basically doubling this right here, and I'm consuming all the inputted resources. So if we go back to the efficiency view now, you can see that everything is green and the production line is fixed. So just by figuring out what's going wrong, you can potentially double your production of a specific module. So the counter still kind of needs to catch up. You'll see this becomes 60 and 30, which is the perfect ratio we need for these modules. So there you go. This is a way of using efficiency view, trying to figure out what is wrong by using, basically debugging parts of your production line by using scrappers to see where the issue is situated. That's a wrap for this episode of Modulus Academy. Make sure you're following us so you don't miss the next one. See you on the factory floor.